Hey folks, this is Vent with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly review Pavlov's House. This is the digital adaptation of the tabletop game. You can find the tabletop game online in various places between, I want to say, 60 to 100 bucks. You can find this digital adaptation for roughly, I want to say, 10. So if you're looking to save money, the digital adaptation is the way to go here. I personally don't own the board game. What attracted me to this was, well, I like digital adaptations of board games, especially when they're scripted and all the rules are laid out and, everything kind of works for you so that you don't have to, struggle to figure out the rules. The computer will help you with it. That's how I learned Twilight Struggle, despite never owning the tabletop game. But anyway, what is Pavlov's House? Well, first and foremost, this is a complicated game, and there's no way I'm going to teach you all of the rules in this review. So my goal today is going to overview it as best I can, tell you what I think, and then hopefully you can decide whether or not you want to pick it up for yourself. Pavlov's House has you in charge of the Soviet 62nd Army against the Germans during World War II. And your ultimate goal is to defend Pavlov's house, okay? And you're trying to get through the entire deck of German cards. The German cards are nasty. So the board itself is broken up over 3 sections. On the very right-hand side, you've got Stalingrad, and you've got a number of spaces on here that will help you in various ways. There's artillery spots where you can assign artillery guns, and they will shoot things on the middle board, which I'll get to. There's anti-aircraft guns, which will shoot down planes as they try and bomb Stalingrad. You've got these fog of war cards that are in your deck, and you've got these, I guess, communications spaces. And if the fog of war cards come up at the same time as the communication cards in your deck, then you can get rid of the fog of war cards. And these are like, the fog of war cards are like dead cards. So you're trying to get rid of them as best you can. So you've got that. You've got this, I guess, flotilla. It's like you're delivering supplies from Stalingrad to Pavlov's house. Okay? That includes like food, ammunition, sappers, medical supplies, that kind of thing. And you have to, order these supplies in Stalingrad, then ship them over to Pavlov's house. There are spaces to do that, okay? So long story short, you've got Stalingrad. It's got a number of spaces on it. There's also numbers assigned to each space. So when the Germans bomb you, they're going to be rolling dice to determine which space is going to get bombed. They roll 3 dice, and then the sum of those dice will determine which spaces are going to be disrupted. Then you have to use your actions to undisrupt them before you can use them again. Okay? Long story short. Then you've got the middle board is an overview of Pavlov's house. It's like a top-down view. And you've got 3 different sides. You've got the green side, the red side, and the purple side. And that's like your line of sight. So when you assign armies to Pavlov's house to shoot the bad guys as they're coming at you, they're only going to be able to shoot at things within their particular color. So if you've got a person stationed on a green space, they can only see the German armies that are coming down the green spaces. If you've got someone assigned to the red spaces, then they can only see things see and shoot things coming down the red spaces. And your ultimate goal is to defend Pavlov's house. If Germans make it to Pavlov's house, then game over. I think there's a couple of other loss conditions there, like you've got a headquarters that can get disrupted on Stalingrad, and I think that's possibly also a way to end the game, but don't quote me on it. I'm still learning the rules myself. Like I said, pretty complicated. And then you've got the left side of the board, which is just the inside of Pavlov's house. This is where you can assign armies suppression tokens. You can see your supplies that you have. Every so often you have to feed your troops. So the way that works, there's 2 decks of cards in this game. You've got your Soviet deck, and then the Germans have their own deck. So the game is broken up over several phases. The first phase is the Soviet phase, where you will draw 4 cards from your Soviet deck, And on each card is 2 different actions. You have to pick one, kind of like in Gloomhaven. You're going to pick one of those actions, and typically it's going to do something for Stalingrad, that particular area of the board. So if you pick the artillery space, or the artillery action as one of the things that you want to do, you're either going to remove a disruption token from an artillery space or assign a new artillery token to that spot. And it's worth noting that when you use these spaces at Stalingrad, it's a one-shot deal. So if you use artillery, you have to remove the token. Or if you use anti-aircraft, you remove the token. Whether or not you actually shot anything down with anti-aircraft, you still have to remove the token and you lose it. So you have to constantly resupply these tokens as you're using them. So again, you're going to be using cards from the Soviet deck to either resupply tokens or remove the disruption tokens, which I'll get to the disruption in a minute. Okay. So there's that. And again, there's Fog of War cards in your Soviet deck that you're trying to get rid of. And more Fog of War cards can be added if the Germans bomb your communication spaces. Again, that's more detail. But anyway, so once you've played 3 of the 4 cards that you've been dealt, and again, it's basically 3 actions. Again, there's 2 actions per card, 4 cards total. It's a total of 8 actions. You can pick 3 of them. And again, 1 per card. So once you're done picking 3 cards to do, then moves on to the German deck. And they're going to draw 3 cards, just one after the other, and resolve their effects. One of their cards might be Bomb Stalingrad 3 times. In which case, you just have to watch as the enemy rolls dice and just disrupts different areas. And again, they will roll 3 dice, and the sum of those dice will determine what space gets disrupted. Okay, so there's that. And if it rolls on a space where it's already disrupted, it moves to the next highest number. So if 11 is already disrupted and the opponent rolls the 11, then actually the Germans roll the 11, then the 12 is disrupted. And the 12 is already disrupted, you move on to 13, and so on. Okay, so that's one thing that could happen. Another thing that could happen is tanks could show up on the midboard on either the red, green, or purple tracks. And again, dice are rolled to determine where they appear. It could be that they're attacking Pavlov's house with artillery, in which case dice are rolled to see if your walls hold. At the beginning of the game, your walls start at 6 strength, and if the enemy rolls a 6, then it goes down to a 5. And if on a future turn, if they attack again, it goes from 5 to 4, 4 to 3, and so on. And the worse the wall becomes, the easier it is for other infantry to attack people inside your house and disrupt them. Like snipers will show up and shoot at you. They first have to get past the wall defense, and if they do so, they shoot your troops and either disrupt them or kill them or something like that. Okay, so the enemy is going to be, Germans are going to be spawning things, they're going to be attacking things, bombing things, and so on. And that's 3 cards every turn. On occasion, and this is seated in the deck, there's the resupply, I think it is, or something. It's a stacked card that's purposely put in the deck at particular spots. You have to feed your troops when that comes up. It's 1 food for every 5 troops that you have in your house. If you don't feed your troops, you have to kill them off. So there's that too. And then once the Germans are done, then comes the Pavlov's house phase where you've got 3 movement inside your house. You can move people around from your reserves to actual spaces, green, red, or purple. And then once you're done moving people around, then you've got 3 actions. Some actions might be shoot at a tank with anti-tank, or shoot infantry with anti-infantry, or anyone that can shoot infantry. Another one might be suppress red, meaning add a suppression token from your reserves to red, and then whenever an enemy unit spawns there, you can like auto-react to it, and then automatically shoot that infantry and try to kill them. Most of these units have a defense value, like 6 or 5 or 4. So whenever you roll dice, you have to roll equal to or higher than that number. So if an enemy tank comes in at defense 5, and you go to attack it with anti-tank, or artillery, or whatever, you have to roll a 5 or higher, at least once. Just one time, that's it. But most of your units can only roll 1 or 2 dice, so it's a gamble. You can roll more dice via anti-tank weaponry and machine gun weaponry. These actual physical artillery or anti-tank guns and machine guns have to be manned by 2 people, and whenever you use them, it uses up their action points. For both of them. Speaking of actions, that's another thing. Whenever you use a unit, they become exhausted. And unlike other games I've played, units just don't become auto unexhausted. Like, they don't just ready up the next turn. You have to spend actions on a future turn to ready them back up again. And if they are disrupted because they were attacked by German infantry or whatever, you not only have to unexhaust them, but you also have to disrupt them. Yeah, undisrupt them, whatever. So, like, there's a lot of action point management in this game. You do have command units that you assign to Pavlov's house that can, just for one action, remove three exhausted tokens from non-command units. So, like, there are ways to mitigate that. But long story short, this is an uphill battle. And I think I've gone over more rules than I care to at this point because I don't want to confuse you. But I gotta say, like, as tough as this game is, it's quite fun to play. I'm gonna fail horribly at this for a while until I come up with an actual strategy. And even then, sometimes the strategies may not work out because it tells a story. There's a lot of dice rolling. So that's one thing I typically don't like in games is the dice rolling. There's a lot of RNG here. You know, sometimes you're trying to shoot infantry and you gotta roll a 5 or 6 and you just can't get it. You've tried several turns to roll a 5 or 6 but can't, you know? That's annoying, very annoying. Or if the Germans bomb you and like 3 planes in rapid succession and knock out 9 of your spaces because you had no anti-artillery or whatever, or anti-aircraft, you're in deep trouble because half of Stalingrad, the majority of Stalingrad's been bombed. So, like, there's a lot of RNG here. Sometimes things just won't go your way. I'm sure there's some meta strategies, but because of the RNG, you really can't, like, do the same thing every game and expect to win because the dice may or may not work for you in the next time out. You know what I mean? So, there are multiple difficulty modes. There's, like, tutorial, basic, elite, there's a normal, and each of those difficulties adds new stuff to the game, so normal and elite will add more things. I've been just dealing with tutorial and the basic game for right now. It's overwhelming. But once you get into the flow, like, the flow of play is easy. It's just all the little rules that go into each phase is a lot. Again, every phase is just Soviet phase, German phase, and then the Pavlov's house. You get to move 3 times, or three movement points and 3 action points, and then repeat. 3 Soviet cards, 3 German cards, Pavlov's house. Soviet cards, German cards, Pavlov. It's just, that part's easy. It's just all the little rules that go into it that make the game confusing. So do I recommend this? Yes. Compared to the board game, I mean, the board game right now, like I said, is online in various places for $60 to $100. No. Definitely not. For digital, yeah, under $10, yeah, absolutely. I haven't run into any bugs yet, but it's fairly enjoyable, I gotta say. And there's other things I didn't even touch on yet, like the Storm House, Storm actions. I'm not gonna even touch that yet. But suffice it to say, this will keep you busy for quite a while. It's got a base defense mechanic to it, with some resource management with a lot of heavy dice rolling. If that sounds appealing to you, then by all means pick this up. If you guys haven't already, subscribed to me on Twitch and YouTube. That way you can stay up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.